Welcome to Leaders Path, leadership journeys of people within the IT and business change professions. Brought to you by Middleton's Assured Talent, IT leadership and business change recruitment specialists.
Welcome to the first episode of Leaders Path, a regular online broadcast dissecting the leadership journeys of people within the IT and business change professions. It is with pleasure that I introduce Richard Eaton as the first hot seat inhabitant. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Nick.
Richard made his first step into the world of technology at the age of 14 when he started a games development business from his bedroom. Now 30 years on, he's managing director of Appware, an award-winning mobile and web apps development business. I'm lucky enough to call Richard a close friend, and I've always been inspired by his career, as I'm sure you will be too. So over to you, Richard, with the first question. So when you meet someone at a networking event, which I know you do a very great deal, how do you describe what you currently do?
Okay, cool. First of all, hello, and thank you for inviting me on. Like I say, a pleasure. So when I first meet people obviously say, what do you do? And you summed it up quite nicely in your intro, actually. So it was, we build amazing, award-winning smartphone apps for our clients. So that's the quick version, really.
And what would you say that you do within that?
My actual role within doing that, making sure that things go according to plan. So a lot of the requirements gathering is key, is teasing briefs out of people for what they actually want, rather than just, we want an app. Why do you want an app? Because we want to make more money, or we want more customers. Yeah. And again, you get everything from literally that is your brief and you come up with it with someone, right through to, well, here's a full specification. Can you guys build this for us?
Great, thank you for that. So I think with this this interview series, what I'm keen to do is really sort of delve into how you got to where you are now. So can you provide a kind of 1 to 2 minute overview of your career to date?
No problem. So again, as you mentioned in your intro, then it all started a long time ago. When I look back now, like you say, over 30 years ago, when the first home computers came out. So it was things like the Spectrums and the ZX81s, all that kind of stuff. So when those first home computers came out, like most people at that time, got them, played some games, that kind of stuff. And one Saturday, we'd been into Leeds, we'd bought a game, come back, and it wasn't very good. And so I said to myself, I bet I could do better than this. So then I, over a period of a few weeks, taught myself what happens behind the scenes on these things, and learned how to program, basically. So then I did write a couple of games, sent them off to publishing houses to see if they were interested in. Thankfully they were. So I got, like I said, my claim to fame is that my career started when I was 14, when I got my first commercial software published. So like I say, that's 30 years ago. So that's how it all started. And at that point, obviously a couple of years after that, then I did O-levels, all that kind of stuff. I'd started A-levels, and my plan was to go to uni. But by that point, I'd written a few more things and sort of decided that actually I know exactly what I want to do. And as luck would have it, someone offered me a trainee programmer role. So I sort of changed my mind and said, well, actually, I know exactly what I want to do. Let's do this. Sorry.
Yeah, out of interest, at that point in technology world, was that quite unusual to not go down the university track to then become a developer, or were there a lot of people entering the industry without the university qualifications?
No, like I say, it's changed a lot in that 30 years, that these days it's almost more common for people to go into especially development type roles in IT without going the university route, where at that point it was still very much you wanted a degree in computer science, etc., etc. Yeah. So it wasn't really the norm, yeah.
Excellent. Anyway, sorry, interrupted.
Yes, so It's going to take a while to see if that's just the start.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And tomorrow, today
yeah,
we.
on episode 2, 3, and 4, we'll
Yeah.
cover the rest of my
Yeah.
career. So I started off as a trainee programmer. Obviously, learned the ropes in that role. Moved up into more normal development roles rather than just trainee roles. And again, this was on a wide variety of stuff. But having looked back at the things I've done, it's always been cutting edge things. So this was in the EPOS. My very first role was in EPOS when everyone was still just using bog standard tills. So even that first thing was fairly cutting edge.
Yeah.
Then I went to work for people like Pace Satellites. And when I joined that company, it was when the original Sky had just come out. And so when I joined, I was their only developer in that department. And when I left, there were 30 people doing that role. So again, that was really interesting to be with them on that journey and see how things progressed. So yes, and then I ran a couple of small companies that were basically just me, which was really good because I had the technical skills, but it was good to build my other skills, my business skills. I'd done that for a while, but was looking to settle down, buy a house, all that kind of stuff. And it was at the same time as the dot-com bubble burst. So suddenly we had backers pull out and all kinds of things. So I went back to the perceived stability of a full-time role, and went in as like a team leader and senior developer type role there. But as anyone that's worked for themselves, it's a real struggle going back into that world. But I stuck it out for 3 or 4 years before starting something myself again. And what happened there was I had a couple of big customers, and both of them really liked the stuff that I was doing, and both offered me directorships of the company. So it was a real tricky one because they were both very different companies, so I didn't know which to go for. So it was almost the toss of a coin was that one.
Yeah.
But I then got headhunted to another company as their development director. And again, it was an interesting role because it wasn't just about the development, because I had to build a development team,
Right.
and handle a lot of sales and marketing stuff as well.
And
so that was
roughly what year was this, just so we're getting a context of the point in time?
Yeah, so that's probably about 10 years ago.
Right.
Something like that. And while I was there, I then got headhunted again with an ex-CEO who was working with a large American company. They were setting up a UK and a EMEA arm of that company, and they wanted someone to head up the engineering side and that kind of thing. So I did that for 2 years, and that was all in the cloud computing space before it had even been called cloud computing, really. Right. So that was really interesting. And eventually, with that company, we licensed the technology off to Microsoft and Citrix, those kinds of guys. And while I was out in the States was when the original iPhone was launched. And something clicked at that point for me that I could see the future was going mobile, and that's when I decided to start Appware, which is rapidly approaching its 7th birthday.
Yeah, that's great. It's a very interesting history. Interesting that you've kind of gone from employed to self-employed on a number of occasions over the years. What do you think? If you look back, what has been the best career move within that history?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because every time you make that career move, you think it's the best career move at the time, don't you?
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed everything I've done, and I don't think if I'd have gone a different route at any point, I don't think I'd be in the position I'm in now.
Yeah.
So I reckon the best career move was that very first one of not going to uni and taking that first development role, because again, I may have completely changed my opinion of what I wanted to do had I gone down that original route. So I guess that's the defining moment. Isn't it?
Which I can understand. What about if you were to, looking at what you've done, and obviously you referenced there not going to uni is a good move for you, but that's not necessarily going to be the decision everyone makes. But
Yeah, of course.
from a career move expert point of view, if you were to share, a bit of wisdom that you've learned along the way in that sense, what would you say to anyone that might help them might make the right choice from a career move perspective?
Yeah, like you said, it's all about gut feel is massive for me. Normally, you're proven right by that. So if something doesn't feel right, then don't do it just because that's what's expected of you or that is a natural path. Then everyone's different.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'd say that's probably the best thing is go with what actually feels right to you.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice, definitely. So you over the years have obviously built teams. You've built a team in your current business. You built, obviously, you mentioned in other roles. What are the key factors in terms of how you recognise or identify talented people?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things I struggle with is finding the right people. And I found the best way to do that is to actually work with people. When I, again, look back at how I've recruited in the past, then it has been through personal recommendations and people I've worked with. So a really good example of that is that one of our senior developers, then he came to us full-time after working for us contract for a year. So we knew that he could do the job, and we knew if it's with our ethos and the rest of the team, and worked really well with them. So I don't think you can beat that experience, especially in development type roles where you've got, if someone says on a CV, I can do PHP and iOS development, yes, you can do some sort of technical tests, but until someone's been in a role for a few months, you can't really tell to what level.
Yeah, sure. What about just generally then attributes that you think, points to someone being talented, and maybe going beyond just from a technical point of view? Is there anything in particular that jumps out to you that says, do you know what, I'm looking at someone that's got a real interesting future ahead of them? Is there anything like that you can think of?
It probably has got a bit of a technical spin on it just because of the nature of what I
No, yeah, that's your
do. But when we're looking for people, then yes, we want them to have those technical skills, but we'd expect if someone's applying for them to have that. So it's more about, do they fit with the ethos of our company? And again, it's a tricky one without getting into buzzwords and stuff, so I'll try and avoid it. But things like for our techie people that we're employing, then are they blogging about stuff? Would they do this stuff anyway if they weren't getting paid? Is a great question. If they actually love what they're doing, and they do this kind of stuff at home, and they have GitHub accounts and all that kind of stuff, and you can tell they're actually completely enthused by it, and it fires them up, then that's always a great indication.
Yeah. No, that's a good one, definitely. So what advice would you give your 25/30-year-old self, which in your career was probably your halfway point in your career, wasn't it? But yeah, just what advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah, not to be such a perfectionist with things.
Right.
That again, it's something that I'm constantly banging on about these days. It's far better to actually release a version 1 of something, and then all those bells and whistles you want to add on later, then do exactly that, add them on later, but launch something. And then you can see what works and what doesn't work. It's far better to do that and have something out there launched than a specification for the perfect product sat in a drawer that never sees the light of day.
Yeah. No, good.
So yeah, I'd say that is to just actually do stuff.
Yeah. So I guess just a few quick fire questions. What technology resource, and it could be a non-technology resource, but knowing it will be a technical resource. But yeah, productivity tool type of thing currently has the biggest positive impact in your working life?
Okay. Like I say, there's two things that are completely opposing here. So my first one is, for productivity, anything that eliminates distractions. So it's actually fairly anti-technology, is this?
Right.
So on my phone, for example, I have no notifications for social networks, that kind of stuff switched on. Because, like most people, I can't resist looking. If something pops up and says, you've got a new mail, etc., etc., I will look at it rather than doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's probably my first one, is fairly anti-technology. Then the second one is a handful of apps that I couldn't live without, really. So the first one is Evernote, so just great for taking notes, that kind of stuff. Second one is Dropbox, so we have all invoices, client files, all that kind of stuff within there. So no matter where we are with any device, we can access all this information. Third one, again, is quite a strange one, is the Kindle app for reading. So I do lots of reading, so that's a good one. And then probably the final one is, internally we use a system called Slack for all our communications. And again, using things like that means that you're actually just talking about the things and you just follow things you're interested in. So rather than the old school way of people emailing and CCing everyone within the company, and then it being difficult to find things later, we tend to use that for all our internal comms. So quite a few things there.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. You mentioned the Kindle, so that leads me on to my next question. What book do you most recommend to aspiring leaders, people that would like to be you one day?
So this is a good one, because until about probably 5 years ago, then I didn't do much reading, and these days I probably read a book a month, something like that. And there's loads of good stuff out there. But probably the thing that's had the biggest impact for me is the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. Unfortunately, I don't only work 4 hours. That's more a link-bait headline. All about
well, Tim Ferriss's blog is an inspiration to this this format. Oh, we've had a slight connection loss. Hold on a second. Oh, are we back? We're back.
Yep, you're okay.
We're all right. We've got pretty far on before we've had a technical glitch right there. Absolutely agree with the 4-hour work week. The ideal is a dream. I think there's so much he talks about that makes so much sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So. Cool. Well, that's the last of the questions, and really the final bit is I know you're a fairly prolific blogger and commenter on social media. So where can people find you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram and Twitter and most of the social networks at Richard J. Eaton, EATON. And like I say, I do quite a lot of blogging, that kind of stuff. So on Medium, it's that same username, and also Huffington Post. I'm a blogger for them. So if you just search my name on there, Richard Eaton, then you'll find my blogs there.
Brilliant. Excellent.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you.
And we'll look forward to speaking to you soon.
Okay. Cheers, Nick.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.